Matthew 26. And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished all these words, he said to his disciples, You know that after 2 days the Passover comes, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified. Then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered at the court of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas. And they plotted together how they might seize Jesus, using trickery, and kill him. But they said, Not during the feast, lest a riot arise among the people. Now when Jesus was in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came up to him with an alabaster flask of very expensive ointment, and she poured it on his head as he reclined at the table. But when the disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, To what purpose is this waste? For this might have been sold for much and given to the poor. But Jesus, perceiving it, said to them, Why do you trouble the woman? For she has done a good work upon me. For you always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me with you. For in that she poured this ointment upon my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. Truly I say to you, wherever in the whole world this gospel is preached, what this woman has done shall also be spoken of as a memorial to her. Then one of the 12, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, What are you willing to give me if I will deliver him to you? And they paid him 30 pieces of silver. And from that time onward he sought opportunity to betray him. Now on the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying, Where do you want us to prepare the Passover for you to eat? And he said, Go into the city to a certain man, and say to him, The teacher said, My time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples. And the disciples did as Jesus directed them, and they prepared the Passover. Now when evening had come, he was dining with the 12 disciples, and as they were eating, he said, Truly I say to you, one of you shall betray me. They were exceedingly sorrowful, and all began to say to him, Is it I, Lord? And he answered and said, He that dipped his hand with me in the dish, the same shall betray me. The Son of Man goes, even as it is written of him, but woe to that man through whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better if they had not been born. And Judas, who betrayed him, answered and said, Is it I, Rabbi? He said to him, You have said it. And as they were eating, Jesus took bread and blessed and broke it, and he gave it to the disciples, saying, Take, eat, this is my body. And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, All of you drink it, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the remission of sins. But I say to you, I shall not drink of this fruit of the vine from this time forward until that day when I drink it anew with you in my Father's kingdom. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them, You will all fall away because of me this night, for it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. But after I am raised up, I will go ahead of you into Galilee. But Peter answered and said to him, If they all fall away because of you, I will never fall away. Jesus said to him, Truly I say to you, that this night, before the cock crows, you shall deny me 3 times. Peter said to him, Even if I must die with you, I will not deny you. Likewise said all the disciples. Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, Sit here while I go yonder and pray. And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and deeply distressed. Then he said to them, My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch with me. And he went forward a little, and fell on his face, and prayed, saying, My Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass away from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. And he came to the disciples, and found them sleeping, and said to Peter, What? Could you not watch with me for 1 hour? Watch and pray, that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, a second time, he went away and prayed, saying, My Father, if this cup cannot pass except I drink it, your will be done. And he came again, and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them again, and went away, and prayed a third time, saying again the same words. Then he came to the disciples, and said to them, Sleep on now, and take your rest. Arise, Let us be going. He that betrays me is nearby. And while he yet spoke, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great crowd with swords and staves, from the chief priests and elders of the people. Now he that betrayed him gave them a sign, saying, Whomsoever I shall kiss, that is he, take him. And immediately he came to Jesus, and said, Greetings, Rabbi, and kissed him. And Jesus said to him, Friend, do what you came to do. Then they came and laid hands on Jesus, and took him. And one of those with Jesus stretched out his hand, and drew his sword, and struck the servant of the high priest, and cut off his ear. Then said Jesus to him, Put away your sword in its place, for all that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Do you think I cannot ask my Father, and he shall even now send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then will the Scriptures be fulfilled, which say that it must happen this way? In that hour Jesus said to the mob, Have you come out as against a robber with swords and staves to seize me? I sat daily in the temple, teaching, and you did not take me. But all this is happening so that the scripture of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples left him and fled. And they that had taken Jesus led him away to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were gathered together. But Peter followed him afar off, to the court of the high priest, and entered in and sat with the officers to see the end. Now the chief priests and the whole council sought false witness against Jesus, that they might put him to death. They did not find any, though many false witnesses came, but afterwards came too, and said, This man said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days. And the high priest stood up and said to him, Do you answer nothing? What is it that these testify against you? But Jesus held his peace, and the high priest said to him, I bind you under oath to the living God. Tell us whether you are Christ, the Son of God. Jesus said to him, You have said it. Nevertheless, I say to you, from this time forward you shall see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power, coming on the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest tore his garment, saying, He has spoken blasphemy. What further need have we of witness? You have now heard the blasphemy. What is your judgment? They answered and said, He is worthy of death. Then they spat in his face and beat him with their fists, and some slapped him with the palms of their hands, saying, Prophesy to us, you Christ. Who is he that struck you? Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard, and a maid came to him, saying, You also were with Jesus, the Galilean. But he denied them after all, saying, I do not know what you say. When he went out to the entrance, another maid saw him, and said to the bystanders, This man was with Jesus of Nazareth. And again he denied with an oath, I do not know this man. And after a little while, they that stood by came and said to Peter, Of a truth you also are of them, for your dialect makes you known. Then he began to curse and to swear, I do not know the man, and immediately the cock crowed. And Peter remembered the words which Jesus had said, Before the cock crows, you shall deny me 3 times. And he went out and wept bitterly.